Thine eyes I love, and they, as pitying me, knowing thy heart torment me with disdain, have put on black, and loving mourners be, looking with pretty ruth upon my pain. And truly, not the morning sun of heaven better becomes the grey cheeks of the east, nor that full star that ushers in the even doth half that glory to the sober west, as those two morning eyes become thy face. Let it then as well beseem thy heart to mourn for me, since mourning doth thee grace, and suit thy pity like in every part. Then will I swear beauty herself is black, and all they foul that thy complexion lack. So once again, Shakespeare seems to be completely enthralled and captivated by this dark lady's dark beauty. He's personifying her eyes here, saying that her eyes are black because they put on black in mourning. Specifically, they're mourning for him because they know that her heart is treating him poorly. Her heart is tormenting him, playing with his affections, and he compares her eyes to the sunrise and to nightfall, saying that the morning sun in the east and the evening star in the west are not nearly as lovely as her two mourning eyes are in her face. And he's using the word mourning here, playing on both meanings of the word to grieve and also early in the day. So then he goes on to say, well, since morning looks so beautiful on you, let your heart match your eyes. Let your heart mourn for me like your eyes do. Let your heart take pity on me and show me all your love and kindness and affection. And then I will swear that beauty herself is black, that you are the paradigm of beauty, and that anyone else who doesn't have your dark complexion is ugly. So that's Sonnet 132 in a nutshell. But I want to take a moment today to talk about the possible identity of this mysterious dark lady. Now, we've mentioned this before, but it's possible that the dark lady never existed. Okay, it's possible that she and the fair youth and the rival poet, these characters that exist in the sonnets, are just made up by Shakespeare. There's no proof that the sonnets are autobiographical. You can't prove it. You know me, though. I think that's bullshit. I think these sonnets are clearly autobiographical. I can't read them any other way. And in that case, these characters were at the very least inspired by real people that Shakespeare knew. If you're keeping track at home, my best theory for the fair youth is that it was the Earl of Southampton. And I think that the rival poet was the Earl of Essex. Now, when it comes to the Dark Lady, we don't have a lot to go on, but we do know some things about her. First and foremost, we know that she was dark. That much we're sure of. She had black hair, black eyes, and a dark complexion. She was probably of Eastern European or like Mediterranean descent. If she'd been of African heritage, he probably would have described her a little bit differently than he did. And we know that she was a musician because of Sonnet 128, so that helps narrow it down a little bit. And we also learn in a later sonnet that she was married. So she was married, but still seemed to have lots of sex with lots of different men. So going off of that, there is someone who matches that bill, who meets that description, who I'm really fascinated by. Her name was Amelia Bassano Lanier, and Amelia was the mistress of the Lord Chamberlain. Now, does Lord Chamberlain sound familiar? Does that ring a bell to anyone? I'm seeing how well you remember 12th grade English class. Yeah, Shakespeare's theater company, his acting troupe, was called the Lord Chamberlain's Men. That's right, the Lord Chamberlain was Shakespeare's benefactor, his patron. He was the one footing the bill for Shakespeare's plays. So it makes sense that Shakespeare would have known his mistress, although whether he knew her biblically or not, that's what we're debating here. And also, she was the daughter of court musicians. Yeah, her parents were instrumentalists and instrument makers for the court of Queen Elizabeth. So it would make sense that she also would be a musician. And they emigrated to England from Italy when she was a young girl. And it's also theorized that her family was of Jewish heritage and that they had to convert to Christianity when they came to England. So that would certainly account for her dark complexion. And also, she became pregnant with the Lord Chamberlain's child when she was 23. And in order to, make things presentable and keep things looking nice, the Lord Chamberlain had her married off to one of her cousins. So it was not by any means a happy marriage, but she was married even though she continued to sleep with other people. So she would have been considered a courtesan at the time, which accounts for Shakespeare calling her a whore and treating her the way that he does in the sonnets. Now, if she is in fact the Dark Lady, it's kind of sad because Shakespeare does not portray her in a positive light in these sonnets at all. Things just, you've only seen a few of these sonnets so far, but they get pretty bad. And in reality, she was a real badass. She was really cool in her own right. She's actually considered the first professional female poet in the English language. Right? Isn't that crazy? I had no idea. She published a book of poems in 1611, and it's considered one of the earliest books of feminist writings in the English language. And one of the theories goes that, again, the sonnets were published in 1609, and that perhaps something that helped inspire her to publish her own poetry was that she was so pissed off by the way that Shakespeare portrayed her that she wanted to have her own say in how she was remembered. She wanted to speak for herself. There are even theories out there that, now this is a fringe theory, certainly, but people who question the authorship of Shakespeare's plays have even asserted that she's the one who wrote Shakespeare's plays and sonnets. Now, it's a fun theory, but it doesn't make any sense at all. Again, I think that Shakespeare wrote Shakespeare's plays and sonnets. I don't think it's that complicated. But at any rate, there are just a lot of things in the plays, things in Shakespeare's plays that seem to pertain to her. Like, he uses the name Amelia more than any other female name in his plays except for Catherine. And, for example, in Merchant of Venice, there's a character named Bassanio. Her maiden name was Bassano, and she was possibly of Jewish heritage. And so, his understanding for the Jewish people that he presents by making Shylock a human being and not just a caricature or a criminal. It all adds up to, she seems to have had an influence on him in one way or another. It's certainly hard to think about a character like Emilia in Othello standing up on stage saying, "I do think it is their husband's faults if wives do fall." Speaking this incredibly feminist speech about being in an unhappy marriage, and not think about this woman, Amelia Bassano Lanier. So again, whether she was the Dark Lady or not, it seems like she had an influence on Shakespeare. And if you want to know Shakespeare better, she's worth studying. And honestly, she's worth studying in her own right. I really want to look up this book of poems. I'm fascinated. It's super cool. So anyway, that's all for today. That's my best theory. We don't know anything for sure. We can only speculate, but it sure is fun to speculate. So I'll be back tomorrow with more sonnets. Stay safe, everybody. All my love. Bye.